everyone, welcome to the first video in my new but very unfinished house. As you can see behind me, I'm sat in the kitchen. This is the first video that I've managed to do sort of sat down properly talking in this house, and this actual video I did mean to intend to do earlier, but it's just been manic. Like, I was quite naive in thinking that I'd be able to sit down and do lots of these videos quite soon after we moved, because we have had people in here non-stop, like you know, like people doing work and family and stuff, and it's just been very manic. And obviously for the first 2 weeks we wasn't even actually living here. We've only been here 2 nights at the time of filming this, so yeah, full on. So I did want to get this out like sooner, but that hasn't happened. But because that hasn't happened, I've had more time to prepare. So basically what this video is, and I am going to try to talk quite fast because I tend to waffle, and this video could go on forever if I waffle about it. But basically it's going to be like sort of like a summary of our move-in timeline and like why we moved, stuff like that. Just like the sorts of questions I would have wanted to know when I was in that process. Although I just want to say before I start that everything I say needs to be taken with a pinch of salt, because every personal situation will be different. And just because mine, like our, look at this, look at that tan from my watch strap. That is bad. I don't even usually tan. Because our house took however long to go through, doesn't mean that's the same for everybody, because there's so many different elements that can, you know, either hinder or speed up the process. So just bear that in mind. Well, obviously you already know that anyway. So why we moved, first of all, so we bought our first house in October 2017, and we always had like a plan in our heads that we'd be there for 5 years, and then we would try to move back down to where we was, because we actually moved 25 miles up away from where we, you know, like grew up, and like from our family and stuff. We did that because the house we wanted, like the size and stuff, we could only afford there. We couldn't afford that same size house where we grew up. We could only afford a 2-bed flat at the time in that area, and we live in one of the most expensive areas in the country, so it wasn't easy. We made a sacrifice, we decided to do that, but we always said we would live there for 5 years. Our mortgage had like a 5-year fixed rate on it. We'd do, you know, we'd stay there for 5 years, hopefully get some equity behind us, more money behind us, because, you know, by the time we decided to move, we're both in like the same jobs but like higher paid, so our salaries had gone up. So yeah, we was like, we'll do that, get more money behind us, and then we'll try to move back down to where we wanted to be. So that's what we did. So we actually did try to first move in June, like the summer of 2021, so after like 4 years. That didn't work out. We had like people messing us around, we had like offers on the house, but they weren't like serious offers. Like, it was just a like terrible time, and it dragged all the way on to autumn. And then autumn, we was like, right, we're getting close to Christmas now. Like, I was like, I don't really want any of this. Like, it's my favourite time of year. I don't really want any of this around. Like, I just don't want to think about that kind of stuff. So we talked to who we had our house on the market with. They said we can take it off for 3 months without having to pay a fee and then put it back on. So we did that. We took it off, and then I think it went up, like just back up just before Christmas. And then we had a few, I think we had like a couple more viewings and like a few more viewings from that, and maybe even another offer, I can't remember. But they never, from that agent, they never were like serious. It was just people like messing around. So we got to January, February, and we was like, should we list with someone else? We'll have to pay a fee, but we're going around in circles here. And we listed with someone else in February, and we sold our house in a week. So so that's what happened. So it dragged then on to 2022. So I'm talking about February 2022, we sold our house. Then we started looking for what we wanted. We viewed a dozen houses, like literally it was 12. And before we found the one we wanted. It took 2 months. So during that time, the solicitors were just getting things ready behind the scenes for our sale, or so they should have been, but they actually wasn't. That's what they should have been doing. And yeah, and then things were going from there. So as soon as we instructed our solicitors, we just decided to instruct them for the sale and purchase of our house. And obviously when we sold our house, they sent us like the joining documents, like your details and all that sort of thing. We filled out and sent it right back. So that was March. They had it back. And then we found a house that we liked in April, and it was actually like the Easter weekend, and viewed it, had the offer accepted like a week after it went on the market. So that's middle of April. Then they send you forms again for like the same thing, for, you know, like the same sort of forms, but for the purchase side basically. So we filled those out, sent them straight back. I'm talking straight back, like the same day we got them, because we was just desperate to move out and we wanted things to move as quickly as possible. We know that these things can take a while, and we just did everything we could our end to make sure it was running smoothly. So straight back in April. After about, I think about 3 weeks or maybe like a month, we rang them up because nothing had happened. Like we hadn't heard anything, there was no communication. So we rang them up and said, you know, sort of like, what's going on? And they said, we haven't filled out your forms and sent them back, and that's what we need to sort of get things going. And we was like, we sent them back ages ago. So in the end they found them. So basically they'd been sitting on them for weeks, which wasn't good. Nothing had moved for a month because they were sitting on these forms. So yeah, we rang them up, chased them, and then they was like, right, we can start work now, and also we need so amount on account, a certain amount of money. So we transferred that straight over to them, and then they started work. So I've just got this in front of me. It was the 30th of March that the stuff for the sale, so we're selling our house, we sent that back on the 30th of March, and then they didn't receive and start work until the 26th of April on that. So they were sitting on that for a month. And with the purchase, they sent the forms over and across, and we sent them back on the 6th of May. And it wasn't until the 23rd of May that they started the work. So on both sides, there was weeks of nothing, and that was not our fault. It was just that they were, I don't know, so busy they didn't see it basically. You do have to ring quite a lot just to chase these things up. Otherwise, from our experience, we found they do just sit on them. So as soon as we rang, it was all sorted. And then you have a confirmation of sale, but that's like right at the start of your joining documents. Basically just check that that's all fine, should be. Like I said, we paid the third-party costs just to have on account so that they could start their little bit of work they needed to do. And then you have to wait for them to draft a contract. So whoever you're selling your house, if you're selling your house, your solicitor needs to draft a contract, send it to who is buying your house, and then you read it, sign it and send it back if you think everything's okay. So our contract and pack of information was sent to our buyer's lawyer on the 12th of May. And we received our contract and pack of information from the people that we were buying from, which they call vendor's lawyer, on the 16th of May. So in the same week, these were at the same stages at this point. And then our solicitor started doing searches on the property on the 17th of May, so the next day, and at the same time our buyer's lawyers will be doing the same. Then that was the time. So from the 17th of May, and then we didn't exchange contracts until the 21st of July. So there was 2 months of basically back and forth inquiries and stuff like that. They're asking and answering in the background. We bought our first house of Help to Buy, and we had a little bit of a bump in the road with getting our mortgage redemption from them. So it's something that our lawyers, our conveyancers should have told us about there's like an extra step you need to take, and they didn't tell us until the week that we originally wanted to exchange contracts. Actually, the day that we originally wanted to exchange contracts, which was the 11th of July. And they did apologise because they dropped the ball and they didn't share certain information with us, and then we had to sort that out. So that delayed things by a couple of weeks. But we was originally meant to exchange on the 11th of July. So yeah, that's another thing to check out. So if you do have a house with Help to Buy, you have to go through this mortgage redemption process. So just ask about that in case. I'm not even like, it doesn't even make full sense to me now. Like, I'm no expert on it at all. It just sounded like mumble jumble, like when it was being explained to me. But just, that's something you need to know about, ask your conveyancer about, just in case they don't mention it. But yeah, that was like a hiccup in the road. So anyway, there was a couple months of ups and downs and all that sort of thing. We got there in the end. So 21st of July, we exchanged contracts, and we all agreed a completion date of the 29th of July. So that is when we all moved house. So that's the timeline. And obviously on that day we had our completion statement, and we had to actually, I think a couple of days before, you have to settle. So we had to settle all things, you know, like with our estate agents, fees were on there, and the conveyancer's fees. We obviously had some money on account, so that covered a certain amount, but obviously there was still most of it to pay. So all in all, I mean, for our buyer it was longer because he bought our house in the middle of February and didn't exchange until the end of July, whereas for us it was like 2 months shorter, and that still felt like a long time. So goodness knows how he felt. The middle of April until the end of July. So for us it was 3.5 months, for him it was 5.5, and that's the problem with a chain. And we're lucky we didn't buy, the house that we bought was end of chain. So if the house that we bought had people living in it and then they had to go and find another property, the chain just would have been so much longer. So I can understand why end of chain properties are attractive to buyers and to sellers if you want like a quick sale, because yeah, that was, I mean, ours was very short chain, but there were still ups and downs, a lot of ups and downs. So yeah, that was the timeline. And there were moments when I thought it wasn't going to happen, and I did cry real tears about it. Every down that we had, my mind just went to, wow, you know, it's not going to happen for us. It's just going to fall through. It's not going to happen, which isn't a healthy way to think. But in those moments, I don't know, I just couldn't help it. So yeah, and tips wise, I was thinking about this, like what would I tell someone who was going through the process now? And I don't want to sound annoying in any way, but I would say you have to chase your solicitors, your conveyancers, just constantly chase them. If they are keeping you informed and doing a good job and things are moving along at what you think is a good pace, there's no need to chase. But if you go weeks without hearing anything and you think that you should have heard something, or you're just like, you want a little update because you're just like, for me, like silence makes me uneasy. I would just want to know what's going on. So if you're a bit like that and you just would rather be kept updated with stuff, and just give them a ring. Like, it started off, we wasn't ringing them at all because we was just letting them crack on and do what they needed to do. But when things got a bit, hang on, we haven't heard from them in like weeks now, we was ringing them like once a week, twice a week. Then it was like Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. And I'm sorry, but when it got towards the end, we was ringing them every single day. But our conveyancer didn't handle our case really well. And actually it then ended up getting, like, had to get, her manager needed to oversee what she was doing in the end. So we didn't have like confidence in them, which is a horrible feeling, because you just feel like my mind was constantly ticking, just wondering what was going on, what was happening. Are they making more mistakes? Like, it's horrible when you can't just relax. But yeah, towards the end, I was ringing them every day, and that seemed to do the trick, because they are spending time on the cases of the people that are chasing them, basically. And if you're not one of those people, I just feel like your case goes to the bottom. So you want to make sure you're at the top of the pile. They're all, you know, they've got your case on their mind. Don't get me wrong, there are times when there are nothing that they can do, so you can chase and ask for an update, and they can be like, at the moment we're waiting for something from the other side, the other conveyancers, so there's nothing to update on, and that's fine. That wasn't the case with us. They were sitting on a lot of work, and it wasn't until we caught that stuff actually got sorted. Another tip I would say for moving is try to prepare as much as you can beforehand. It's a little bit, it'll be based on preference really, on what you feel comfortable with, because I packed up pretty much once we had our offer accepted. Started with one box, packing little bits in one box, and then it just snowballed, and before I knew it, basically our entire house was packed up, aside from what we needed to survive day to day. So obviously we kept like most of our kitchen stuff in the kitchen, and we had a sofa to sit on, and we had like, the boys had a few toys out, but most of them were in storage. Most of like decorative stuff was in storage, you know, like rugs, candles, mirrors, anything we didn't need to survive. It's basically a very, very bare house with a bed, something to sit on that wasn't a bed, few toys, kitchen stuff, what we needed to live day to day. And I'd say like, I think by like the end of May I'd done that. So for like the whole of June, like basically for 2 months, our house was pretty much empty. It wasn't a nice place to be. Like I didn't enjoy spending that time in there. And it is risky as well, because we hadn't even exchanged contracts, and I'd packed up our whole house, and it could have all crumbled. So yeah, it's like, it's personal preference. I wanted to do it because I didn't want to like, okay, we've exchanged contracts, we have a week to pack up our house, because that's what it was. We had a week to pack up our house, and even though our house was pretty much empty, that was stressful, and we just like had a hard time doing that in a week. I would do it that way again. I would prepare as much as I could, because those little decorative bits, it's not really too much to unpack and put them back in your house if you wanted to, but obviously it just doesn't feel homely for while it's all going on. But for me, my head is mentally in the new house when that was all going on. So I didn't, even before I started packing stuff, I just didn't want to be like there anymore. It didn't feel like my house, so it wasn't too bad for me. But I would say to prepare as much as you can if you feel comfortable doing so. It really helped us as like a busy family. I found it was a good idea for us. In terms of removals, we didn't hire a removal company or anything like that, to be honest. We actually just used like our car, and we borrowed like vans from friends and family, and we did a few trips. And that's another perk to packing up early, is you can do those trips, and we put them in storage in friends and families like units and garages and stuff. If you can do that, and they don't need sort of like the access to that whole garage, they do have that storage, I would say absolutely try and do that. Even if you have to split up your stuff, obviously make sure it's like labelled correctly, or you know what stuff's going where, so that you know exactly where to go when you move to get certain items, if that makes sense. But I would say try and split it up and put it into friends and family's garages if you have that option. We were lucky enough that we had that option, and we managed to do a few trips and split up our stuff, so that actually on moving day we just had one small van load, and off we went. And I think I had a little bit of stuff in the car as well, and then like that was that. So yeah, it was really useful to be able to. I know not everybody will have the luxury of having that, but I would just think that that's easier. And also I just feel like it's more like with storage and having to pay for storage, and you don't know when you'll move in, so you keep like paying for storage, and you know, you might have to keep paying certain fees and extending it. With family and friends, you hopefully shouldn't have to do that, so it's just much better for us. Obviously, if we did have to hire removals, we would have. I just don't know how it would have worked with like children, and also personally me, like I know they can pack your stuff up for you, but I'm a bit funny about that. Like I just want to pack my own stuff up. On the day of the move itself, this is probably like, everybody probably does this anyway, but I would say get up early as you can. Try and pack what little bits you need to take with you that you don't need to get ready. So like if you need, obviously you're gonna need your hairbrush, toothbrush, wash stuff, your clothes for the next day. Just sort of like pack an overnight bag and leave that out to the side, so that literally when you're done with all that, you can pick it up and go, put it in your car. Anything else, put in the van or the car the night before. So literally in the morning, you clean the house. That's what we did. Get up early, clean the house, get ready, put all your stuff in that overnight bag. Use that overnight bag to get ready, and then you just pick up that overnight bag and dump it in your car and go with your stuff. Like, it's so much easier. I was up at the crack of dawn and I started cleaning, and I did that. And the good thing about it all was we finished at a certain time, still hadn't had the call, went out for breakfast, come back, still hadn't had the call, and then had half an hour around the house just sort of pottering around, making sure everything was okay for the owner, just double checking everything. It just gives you the luxury of time, rather than, you know, like hoovering at the last minute and then the person that is like moving in turns up. Like, I could not imagine like the stress of that. Our children stayed out the night before, which is also a big help if you can do it, because it's just, you know, less people to get ready in the morning and easier to clean without children running about and all that kind of thing. So yeah, I've run out of tips. They were my top ones really. I didn't want to do 5. I think I've just done 3, but I can't think of any more, especially of what I did. I would say they were the main ones, and they made moving a hell of a lot easier for us. So there you go, I've got 3 for you. Now that we're all settled-ish in this house, I will be doing a lot more like proper house stuff rather than these sit-down talking ones. I'll be doing like house content of what we've done so far. We have moved in now, so it's at a state where we can like live in it okay, like temporarily. The upstairs is livable, downstairs less so, but we are here nonetheless. But things are going to change quite a lot over the next few weeks. That's what my videos are going to be about, like upcoming. The next ones I'm going to do are just talking through, well, not sit down talk like this, more like showing you like our plans for the house. So like the exterior, like the front and back gardens, and the downstairs and upstairs, so you can see a bit more of the house and what we've done so far. So it'll be a little bit more interesting. I really enjoyed like doing bits to the house. I don't want to go into too much detail now, but yeah, it's been interesting, and it's been really just, I don't know how to describe it. It's just been really just amazing really to watch it transform. If that's your sort of thing, subscribe because that's coming. Like this video if you did, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.